Good morning and welcome to this very special session at COP29. A year ago, I was standing at this very podium at COP28 in Dubai. And very high on the agenda around the time where we were having our sessions on the Food and Water Day, food, water, agriculture, agri-systems was very high on the agenda. And we were really enthused to hear that over $2.5 billion was pledged towards it. There was also a declaration with 130 parties signing on the food and climate agenda. But consider this, in Asia alone, we know that the demand for farmers' financing, especially smallhold farmers, majority of whom are in food-growing regions of Asia, stands at $100 billion annually. So that's just to lay the context and give everyone the scale of the issue, the gap that we are talking about. And towards these next 1.5 hours, we will take you through Asia, we'll take you to Africa, we'll come back here to COP in Baku and deal with some of the really hard-hitting questions about how big is really the gap? How fast are we moving to bridge financing and the smallhold farmer? How are we really changing the food production system as we speak, as we are at public fora year after year? And are we fast enough? What's the cost of not accelerating what we are doing? I'm Rupali Mehra. I'm the Asia head for a green tech company called Spowdi, and I also look after their as their chief marketing officer, look after communications. Well, I'm going to start by going first to India. And let's go to a lady who we know pretty well and who we all admire in Spowdi. And we do hope that once you all watch her story, you will admire her too. Her name is Bhavna Bhen. Now, Bhavna Bhen is a story of a farmer who has moved from being a smallholder farmer to an impact generator. She's one of the early pioneers of adopting technology. And it's usually very hard in food-growing regions where there are smallhold farmers, for these farmers to access technology that is specifically designed for them. And you see on your screen there, I won't say too much, let her tell her own story, but by using technological interventions and by moving to precision irrigation systems, she's actually able to increase her crop yield and, of course, with that, increase how much money she earns, how much comes into her own pocket. This translates to other benefits of better livelihoods, education for her children, more entrepreneurship abilities, as well as capacity building for the whole community. Let's hear from her story.
मेरा नाम भावना बिन राठौड़ है और मैं सिया में 6 साल से काम कर रही हूँ। रात को पानी हमको खेत में डालना पड़ता था। बिजली 8 घंटे के बाद आती थी, लेकिन बीच में बार-बार यूं ही चली जाती थी। ढंग से हम खेत में पानी नहीं दे सकते और वो डालिया पद्धति से खेती करते थे, यूं ही पानी पूरे खेत में बिछा देते थे। वो जितना चाहे समय उतना पी ही नहीं सकता था। और हमने 1 साल से हमने प्रिसिशन सिंचाई पद्धति यूज की है, लगाई है। तो हमने 2 खेत में किया। हमने एक आधे एकड़ में वरियाल की और हमारा दूसरा खेत था सामने, उसमें 1 एकड़ था, उनमें भी वरियाल की। हमें बहुत तफावत दिखते थे। पानी की बचत भी होती है, लेकिन वो 1 एकड़ वाला जब हम पानी खेत में रात को यूज करते थे तो 3 कलाक होते थे और 1 एकड़ में हम वो प्रिसिशन चालू करते थे तो हर दिन 20 मिनट ही चालू करते थे। 1400 किलो हरियाली का उत्पादन मिला, जबकि वो 1 एकड़ वाला था, उसमें 853 किलो ही बीज हमको उत्पादन मिला।
Well, so that's one story for you from India. Let's come back to this room now in Baku at COP29. And I'd like to invite my colleague and the CEO of Spowdi, Henrik Johansson. Welcome, Henrik. Henrik, you are, and you can come and sit here, you are the innovator of the technology that you saw Bhavna Ben using. And take us through the 10 years that it has taken you to really perfect a technology for smallholder farmers, what was available earlier, and what's the pathway ahead, really?
Okay, thank you. Am I audible? Okay. Yeah, it started quite nearly a decade ago, and the reason for taking on this journey is because we need more of these Bhavna Ben profiles out there. And I was traveling around trying to figure out why are they not doing better? What is the problem? And there are lots of problems. The climate change is ongoing, and it hits this group of people quite hard. It will be tough to irrigate if you don't have enough of water. And if you have water, but you irrigate with the wrong methods, you will overuse water that will lead to generate a not that big and healthy harvest. So when we digged into this problem, we started from the ground and to understand what is needed, what can we support with new kind of technology, new methods. So that was the first step of this journey. The second step was to figure out how to get the knowledge transformation out to Bhavna Ben and her community, and how to get the technology out there, and will they be capable to buy the technology? Is it affordable, etc., etc.? Then we start to dig in on the next journey, which is also an engineering journey, engineering the distribution model to do this. And the third part of the journey was about finding on how financially support this transition, because it's an investment in the future for the many people, and there are lack of financing at the end of the line in the value chain, which is the farmer. So how can we make this happen in bigger scale? So I have been focusing the last 2 years of my engineering journey on figure out a smarter way of financing a business opportunity in relation to how we historically have financing these kind of projects. And for me, it's not the project that starts, do something and stop. We are trying to establish an initiative, a never-ending story that should be, let's say, standing on its own feet because we are doing better. We are generating more income for the end user, and we are making investment with that money to do even better on the ground. So that has been more or less the journey for the last almost a decade. So in my position, I'm very pleased to see what is happening now, because it's possible. It's possible to grow significantly more food with significant less water. And that, in return, more money into the pocket. And that was the requirements that we had on the drawing board. More money to the end user by saving water, etc. And then we figure out that there is no technology out there that could deliver on these KPIs. So that's why we have this innovation live.
Right. So we, in fact, just captured you while you were there in, this is Gujarat, I believe, in India, while you were taking the farmers through how the technology works and having the farmers also try out the technology for themselves. And that's important. Now, very quickly, and this is something I'll touch upon with you later on as well. How does one really make the farmer investable enough, if I can use that word? I mean, why should, say, financing organizations or grant-making organizations actually be so interested and invested in the smallholder farmer?
That is the challenge. Nothing comes for free, and this technology and the process of getting the technology out to the farmer is very costly if we are not scaling in volumes. So the farmer, they don't sit on the capacity to pay this up front. They need to have financial support. And there are different models to do that in different parts of the world. One is, this is from India, where the government are pushing subsidies to the farmer. But these subsidy programs might not be, let's say, attracting companies like us, because selling with a discount and wait for a long time before you might have the money paid out from the government is not a good model. So what we have done, we have given a few, in this case, women, access to the technology to try it out on parts of their land, and based on that, understand what is the potential, and the potential will be seen when they go to the market and they sell much more food, and if that brings in much more money, then they will be capable to acquire the technology. So there is a gap. Before get access to the knowledge, before getting access to the technology, how can you transform your own business? If you must pay for it, with what kind of money? So that is the challenge on the end user perspective, I would say.
Okay. So I'm going to perhaps then take our audience through some other case studies. And if you want to chime in, please do in this. But let's also begin the journey of Sangeeta Ben. Sangeeta Ben, there you see her. She's also one of the members of Seva and one of the pioneers, really, again, in adopting smart farming technology. And there you see her again. And she had it quite hard because she used to live with her father, who then got paralyzed. So there was no breadwinner really for the family. So typically, Sangeeta Ben may not have ventured into business, trying to make profit out of farming, because it was her father who was running the farm. Circumstances forced her to make that change. She, of course, reached out to Seva, and then she reached out to us, and then got trained in smart farming. And if you hear her story, it's so inspiring that she's been actually covered by several business media as well. There you go. Last year, she was here at COP and in person, and she spoke at not just our stage, but also sharing the stage with Hillary Clinton and other stakeholders in the climate world. And her journey, of course, has been something that is spoken about very, very well across the world now. Let's just hear it from her. She couldn't join us today, but here she is.
સંગઠન છે અને હું ખેતી અને પશુપાલનનું કામ કરું છું. જે પહેલાં અમે ખેતી કરતા હતા તો ઢાળિયા પદ્ધતિથી ખેતી કરતા હતા. જ્યારે જેમાં રોગ વધારે આવે, પછી નિંદામણ વધારે થાય અને ઉત્પાદન પણ સારું ના મળે. અને અત્યારે જે સ્પાવડી પંપ વાપરીએ છીએ ને, તો અમારે એટલી મહેનત નહીં થતી અને સીધું પાણી ટપક જેટલું જમીનના છોડને જોઈતું હોય ને એટલું જ મળી રહે, અને જેનાથી નિંદામણ પણ ના થાય અને રોગો પણ ના આવે. જે અમે જ્યારે ધાળિયા પદ્ધતિ ખેતી કરીએ તો ખાતરને બધું અમારા હાથેથી નાખવું પડતું હતું. દવા પણ પંપથી છાંટવી પડતી હતી. પણ અત્યારે જે અમે બાયોગેસ થકી સ્લરી જે ડાયરેક્ટ ટેન્કમાં નાખી દેવાની અને ડાયરેક્ટ નરી પર ચડાવીને એવી રીતે ખાતરના દવા આપીએ છીએ.
So what I found interesting in this is that actually Sangeeta Ben tried out something else. She was given the the Spowdi smart farming technology to distribute water. But then she tried different ways in which, okay, can I put in other, say fertilizers in which she's already using through the technology as well. So. And then she's also been using the technology to take it to her community as also. Any inputs on how farmers have, not just in India but across that you've been to, how they start accepting the technology and how do they grow and build their own capacities and that of their community with the technology?
I mean, these people, they know what they do, and they are smart. Sangeeta Ben is one example of that. She doesn't spend that much money out in the field because it's an automatic irrigation system. And she doesn't, when she is not flooding, she is not spending time on removing weeds. So there are extra time. What she do with this extra time? She influences the community around her to adopt what she is doing. That is one thing. She is now starting to become a pioneer so that she can distribute to the neighbors the same kind of knowledge and technology. It's a very last mile distribution. She will find new ways of using these 4 hours that has been freed up for her every day to do new kind of business. And she is also an inventor, because she has a biogas tank where she lives. Now she is using fertilizers within the same technology and figure out how to put these fertilizers into the water distribution system by herself. So there are lots of things going on as we speak in the market. But the challenge is she is a member of an organization, Self-Employed Women Association, 2.8 million members. How can we reach all of them? It's about capacity building in the last mile distribution network, and that is the gap where we are right now. We know that it's possible. We know how it works. We know that it's affordable for the farmer if they just get access to it. Within 1 year, they have the financials to buy it. All of that we know, but how can we reach the remaining part of this big group? In this case, women, but I'm talking about the big group of 500 million smallholder farms around the world.
Right, and very quickly, also taking you to another part of India, another part in Gujarat, actually, where we have, Spowdi works with Hand in Hand India, and that's Falji Bhai. Typically, in the summer months, there's not enough water to grow food. Not just for themselves, but also to sell. So we've been working again with an organization called Hand in Hand India, and after the winter crop, they tried the technology for the summer crop as well. More of an experiment to see, does it really work? Can they use the technology given the limited amount of water that is available in the month of May? Can they actually use it to grow crop? So Falji Bhai was one of them who grew cucumber, watermelon, eggplants, and this is during the time when the land was typically lying barren or fallow, and the results again are there for yourselves. He tried this technology, of course, and the drip irrigation in one part of his land for 500 square meters, and managed to earn about 13,000 Indian rupees, which would be roughly about $160. But if he scales it to the rest of his farm, so you can see how much he can actually earn otherwise, where the earning through food production would be zero. So these kind of examples really are the ones that we know that the smallholder farmers can make a difference. They want to make a difference, and they need there is technology, but they also need access to the technology. So I'm going to just go across on how we, as stakeholders, as actors in the food system, how can we step in and what should we really do? Here you see the smallholder farmer. The smallholder farmer, as of now, by themselves, they are a vulnerable lot in that sense, at the forefront of climate change, right? There is technology available. Henrik spoke about that. So here is one of the innovators of a technology, patented technology, which works and is designed for the smallholder farmers. How does this happen? How does one actually bridge this gap? We also need other players. We need other stakeholders to come in. And that's when we work with implementing organizations. On the ground, the role of implementing organizations who understand the context, who understand the local language, the situation, the culture, the socio-economic pain points, their role is super important to build that trust factor. But also, I'll just come to you, but also the financing and governance to make this wheel spin. So to charge this part of the system as well, right? So that's extremely important. And I think together, we can really create impact. We together are the impact enablers, really, who can transform 200 million smallholder farmers to become impact generators. Yes, Henrik?
Just to tap in, the biggest challenge where we are right now, as I see it, is perhaps not the technology itself. We do know there are lots of money available. You said it already, promise given. But here's the challenge, how to reach out, implementing. Because everything that is in the market today is based on, can I say, old knowledge, old methods, old way of thinking, like project way of thinking. So how can we bridge this? What is needed? The focus, of course, is the output for the farmer, but we do know that that is possible. We have seen it, we have proven it. But the implementing organization, like for example, SEVA, they are not a commercial company. They are an NGO, member-based organization. They don't earn money with their operations. They are in need of influx of money, soft money. If there's no influx, they will not have any operation. So that must be changed. We must think on this wheel as a value chain based on commercial terms by identify all the cost that is part of the distribution. All the cost must be identified and recognized and covered. And it should be covered based on what is achieved at the end of this chain. This is completely new way of thinking. Do we then need subsidies? Perhaps not. We need government kickstart support, because this organization must transform from being like an NGO charity way of thinking to become businessmen and women, understand what is a KPI. And how shall I think, what is ROI, return on investment, what is that? What kind of cost base do I have? And how do I make sure that I get something out from this cost base?
Yeah.
Am I doing the right things? I need new models, new guidelines. And this is where the whole wheel comes in, because to change here and give the right kind of support, these actors must perhaps reconstruct a little bit on how they route money. The government out in the local market, they must rethink on how they are spending their money. Given subsidies to switch from a diesel pump to an electrical pump, what will that do as a difference if the diesel pump that has been used for flooding has been converted into an electrical pump with the same characteristics and used as flooding? There's no water saving in that. And if it's a big pump, which it almost every time it is, connects to the grid, and the grid is producing the electricity in the grid comes from coal power plants. What's in it? And also, the electricity not available when the farmer would like to irrigate. They must go out during nighttime, because during daytime, the electricity is routed to the industry. Being out in the field, I have been there. Don't go there. There are lots of snakes and other animals that will, that is dangerous. So what's in it for the farmer? If we push subsidies and forcing them to switch because it looks good to use an electrical pump is of the CO2 part of it, that will not make any change. It's not a permanent change. So
good point there,
rethinking is
Henrik, because I can share a similar example also, that often when we've seen cases in which there are too much of subsidy given, so to convert from, say, a diesel-powered pump to a solar-powered pump.
Yeah, but
However, if
however,
it is
it's no
to
ROI in it.
draw out water, which is free, and the solar is free, and it is not thought through till the last drop. What's happening is then on the ground, farmers overuse the water. How are you changing that with your technology?
No, but they are overusing, which means that you showed one example. I have seen more example of this extra harvest. And that extra harvest comes because they have used water much wisely, more wisely. And that will not happen if you continue to flood, for example. The farmers, if they just see what is possible, of course they will try to generate the third harvest, because that is new income 100%. So if we are going to incentivize anyone, the implementing organization or the farmer, it must be based on commercial terms, and it must be based on return on the investment way of thinking.
Fair point. And in fact, I'm glad that we do have among the audience as well, and we promise this we'll try and make it interactive. We do have implementing organizations here. We have multilateral organizations, financing organizations here, and others. I would, in fact, like to invite the audience as well at this point of time, asking the question, how are you enabling smallholder farmers to become profitable and climate resilient food producers? How can we really change things on the ground? What's your role in the larger food systems puzzle? So I would, in fact, like to ask our audience to come in at this point and take one of these stickies, and let's do it this way. So we have one bunch of stickies which are green. We have one bunch of stickies which are yellow, pink, and blue. So I would like to, let's start with the smallholder farmer. That's green. So if there are any smallholder farmers here, write your name. If you are from an organization, write your organization and stick it here, right? If you are financing, governance, multilateral organization, please write your name, your organization, and stick it here. If you are a technology provider, please write your name and put it here. Or if you work with technology and distribution. And if you are an implementing organization on the ground, that's the blue one for you here. Please write your name and stick it here, right? So we have green for the smallholder farmer. We have blue for the implementing organization. We have pink for the technology provider. And we have the light yellow for the finance and governance organization. So please come in. I invite everyone to actually come here and put your names and stick it on the board. There are pens available here. Yeah, we'll take the questions afterwards. Yeah. Pink. Okay, so we wrap up this, right, and a break.
We can have a 5-minute break.
Yeah. Yeah. Please take it here. Yeah. Name and organization, if you like. So your name and organization, and please stick it here, and we'll go through it. We'll take one quick round on this.
African Union.
You can put it there. Here. Governance, can you all come?
Intergovernmental organization. Implemented.
Okay, put it there. So I think we just have one quick one. But if you are still writing and you might like to put in your names, walk in and stick it, no problem at all. So I see there we have a lot of stakeholders. We had stories, of course, from the smallhold farmers, but we also have their representatives here. So perhaps we can just do a quick run through the names that we have here, and we will be taking your questions as well. We've reserved time for that. We'll leave this as it is so that we can get to see it. But we have from here, let's start with the implementing organizations that are here. We have the Alliance for Food Security Action in Africa, and then we have Child Fund as well. We have the Smiling Foundation. We also have the BIF, Development Research Foundation. And we have, there are those who are investing in capacity building on climate innovation techniques for all. There's somebody who's written that as well. And we have Eclosin, correct me if I'm pronouncing that, if it's good. Okay. All right. And then on the technology side, we have Spowdi. Have you put in your name here, Henrik?
No, but Jacob did it for me.
All right, okay. So, and we also have atmospheric water generation, and we have BAIF again on the technology front as well. From finance and governance, we have IFC World Bank, Richard Kolbach, and we'll be inviting him on stage as well. And we also have, and I just need to kind of read this a little better, private financial and an equity firm, and the representative is Shlomo, yeah? So we have him as well here. So thank you all. So there is a strong representation. We know that together we can be impact enablers. But for that, we need to come together. A lot of us are working in silos. We are reaching out. But there needs to be a far more accelerated and systematic way to take up not just piecemeal pilot projects, but also initiatives so that we see change not on a pilot-to-pilot basis, but we see change on scale. Perhaps we do have 5 minutes before we head into a break. So I would like to, if there are any questions at this point of time that Henrik could answer or I could answer, we'll be happy to take them. But we do have time reserved later on as well for questions. So anyone, very quickly raise your hand and we'll just pass the mic around. Otherwise, we get into a break. No questions for now? Oh, we do. OK, go ahead. And please introduce yourself, your name, your organization, and then the question.
Hi, I'm Bharat Kakade from BIF, India. We are, as you can see, both in technology providers as well as implementers. My question is pertaining to the technology. and the outreach which you have achieved so far in India.
That's okay.
So what is exactly the technology, whether it is applying to the foliar through foliar spray, and is it integrated with various nutrient management? Number one. Number two, to what extent you are able to reach out to the farmers in India so far, small farmers, and what is the overall impact
Sure.
in terms of income?
All right. So, Henrik, would you like to take the question on how does the technology actually work? Because you've designed the technology. So if you can take us through it on really what's the way and why do you say this technology is specifically designed for the smallholder farmer?
First of all, we are operating the technology with just one small solar panel because it's an extremely energy efficient technology. And why is that? If it's a small system, it will be not that costly to transport. If it's a small system, we don't need that much of raw material to put it together. That is the one part of it. But if it's a small and low weight system, it could be hand carried by one person back and forth to the farmland. If you have lots of solar panel in a fixed installation to operate a very powerful electrical pump, will you be sure that the solar panels will be there the next day when you come back? It's property, your property with high value. It's a risk it will be stolen. So that is the fundamental part of the technology, to make it extremely energy efficient so it could be manufactured with not that big cost, shipping around with not that big cost. Since we do serve the smallholders that doesn't sit on a big bank account. The other thing with this technology is that it's very easy to use. It's very easy to install. And since it comes in a box, including the drip irrigation equipment that should be on the ground, it's a perfect match between that technology and our technology, being fine-tuned. So when you press the start button, you don't need to think about how things is actually irrigated. And we are talking about environments that is extreme for any kind of technologies. High temperature, nothing likes high temperature when it comes to technology. So it's also a very robust system that will survive over time. We use air to move water. No such thing, if you're technical people here, like impellers that is rotating. If those kind of pumps goes dry, they will burn. If those kind of pumps are pumping water that is not clear with gravels and things, they will burn. Nothing destroys air. We can pump mud with air. So it's a very robust system. But most importantly, it's a system that has been designed for one purpose only. It should not fail, it should not break down, but it should deliver much more income by being smart system. Turn it on, let it do the job, turn it off. You should not think about how much water do I actually need and using, etc., etc. A super smart technology helps people not to do wrong. Smart technology helps us to do a little bit better, but super smart technology helps people without knowing doing the right thing. So design is actually perhaps more important than most of us actually understand. Design is key to make things switch. But on the other hand, if you come with a technology and you show this size of solar panel and you point out to 1 acre of land, 4,000, a little bit more than that, square meter of land, and say, this will do the job there using drip irrigation. No one believes in that. So our journey has been this seeing is believing approach. Completely new way of thinking, and that is the big challenge. App, yeah. Yeah, we'll come back to that, I think. And the second question was about the...
About what kind of income increase does the smallholder farmer really have? What's your experience with the farmers?
The extra earnings will be higher than the cost of acquiring the technology. That was the on the drawing board. If that is possible, we do have an opportunity, a business opportunity within this group. If not, we are depending on grants and other things, and that will not be scalable over time. In general, we see an increase of income by 3 times. We see that we shorten the time from plantation to harvest by approximately 20%. We save about 80% of the water, which means the third harvest is possible. But we also save hours on a daily basis. And that time is money. If you use the extra time wisely, you will add more revenue, except the extra earnings from your core business. So this is a complete ecosystem, I would say.
All right, so I hope that answers your question, and we will head into a short break, but we will come back with talking about, so you've defined the technology, you've defined the business process on how it should give this smallholder farmer more economic independence, better livelihoods, more profitability really, and the ability to pay back on any kind of innovation that they adopt. However, then comes the question of implementing organizations. How can they be involved? How can they really be charged on the ground and have more feet on the street really to ensure that they reach out to far more farmers than we are talking about? We're not talking about 10 or 100 or 1,000. There are 200 million smallholder farmers that can actually use this technology. So a pilot-based approach, one would say, is just too slow if we are to change things on the ground. But when we come back, we'll also talk about the opportunity that exists. So it's not just a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. And we'll again touch upon Asia. We'll go to the continent of Africa, and with case studies there. And we have with us IFC, we have with us BAIF, and we have with us other stakeholders as well who we'd like to invite on stage to hear their expert comments and see how together we can solve for a more climate resilient food production system. So 10 minutes break. There is coffee out there. There are some snacks out there. Please help yourselves, and we again reconvene. Thank you. do take your places. And for those who are just joining us or would like some more information, we have these which I'll leave on the table. Feel free to pick it up. All right, let's settle down. We are about to start the second part of how do we future-proof food production together? How do we create a climate-resilient food system in which each value person or each actor and stakeholder in the value chain gets enough value? So in part one, we saw the business case. We also saw business case studies. We went to India in Asia, and we saw stories of Bhavna Ben. We saw the case study of Sangeeta Ben. We also saw how Falji Bhai managed to increase his crop production and get another harvest during the summer, where typically his land would lie barren. In part two, we will invite the experts, and we'll also talk about the opportunity that exists to kickstart a climate-resilient smart farming initiative. What's the offer? What's the ask? What's the give? Those are really the three parameters that we will talk about in this section. So we're talking about opportunities. Let's first touch upon the opportunities that exist as we speak in Asia, largely the Indian subcontinent that you see here. Spowdi works with a number of last-mile implementing organizations. We shared with you some case studies from Seva and Hand in Hand India. However, there are many more. We work with Jal Jeevika, which is primarily into fish farming. We spoke about Hand in Hand India. We are starting, in fact, a project with BAIF, representatives of who are here and will be speaking soon. We work with Access Development Services, which again is in the northern part of India, launching the project just from a few days from now. Pradhan, which works in the northern western belt of India. And Samunati, which is a marketplace specifically designed for smallholder farmers in India, and which are 146 million smallholder farmers. And they are the ones who also work on a business model concept. So with these partners here, we are looking for converting the whole perception of smallholder farmers from being someone who's always in need of handouts and subsidy to self-reliant business women and businessmen and entrepreneurs who can grow as they go. So these are the opportunities that you see in India. I'll also touch upon Bangladesh with RSF. Once again, that's an opportunity that exists, especially for those who are interested in where all we work to map out our working. But I'll also touch upon the northeast of India. And we're working with a very, very interesting organization called MBMA, which is called the Meghalaya Basin Management Agency. And it's a hard-to-reach off-grid region. And they've been struggling for years now on how can technology really reach their farmers. They say money is not a problem. We have a lot of agencies who want to make a difference in the region. But the technologies that they have adopted so far have not worked because they've not been designed specifically for the target group in mind. Here's the team from Spowdi. We held a training session and also deployed the technology for the smallholder farmers there. So I, in fact, after this wanted to speak, I wanted to show you and take you to Meghalaya to meet Augustus Suting, who's the Deputy Project Director of this initiative. And let's hear from him really what's happening out there and what the ask is.
My name is Augustus Suting, currently holding charge of the Meghalaya Livelihood and Access to Market project as Deputy Project Director, a project funded by IFAD, and I'm also looking after the Sustainable Land Management, a project funded by KFW as the Additional Project Director. As you all know, that the world's heaviest rainfall is located in our state, in a place called Sora Cherrapunji. But the paradox is that it has scarcity of water during winter and may therefore be termed as a wet desert. Though agriculture is the mainstay of the state, the scarcity of water in winter makes it non-remunerative. This is because of the topography where water is available down in the valleys and cultivatable land is up in the plateau, thus making availability of water at this plateau a very high cost. The demonstration of the Spowdi technology has shown its viability in the state. We are very much enthusiastic to create a demand for the marginalized tribal farmers by introducing 300 to 500 units across the state. We therefore would invite partners, be it funders, be it the technology developers, and be it individuals and entrepreneurs, to partner with us in this innovative innovation and intervention.
So his ask is clear. They are inviting partners to come and help scale the adoption of smart farming in the region of Meghalaya in North India, in the northeast region of India. And let's move on now to Africa. In Africa, again, Spowdi is working with several organizations. There is the Child Fund International, which has, in fact, interest in Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Zambia, Mozambique, Guinea, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and the Gambia. So there is iBexter. There's Hand in Hand East Africa, We Effect, the Bergvik Group, as well as Impact Genesis, separately in Guatemala. So these are the other projects or the other initiatives that exist. I want to touch upon specifically on Child Fund International, because in many ways that's become a lighthouse case of how implementing organizations can work to generate scale and how they can transform really the smart farming initiative from being just a subsidy and grant-driven approach to a business model. Let's take you to Dr. Issa Kipera. He's the Program and Sponsorship Director of Child Fund Kenya. Henrik, perhaps we can bring you in here as well. You were there last week in Kenya. And where Henrik and another colleague of ours, Christopher, officially handed over the initiative to the care of Child Fund International. How did you all go about it? Very quickly, Henrik, if you can take us through, and then we'll connect to Dr. Isa Kepera?
Well, first of all, they are an excellent partner because they do understand the big picture, and they have mobilized all the resources that actually is needed to carry the whole way out in the last mile. They have a business plan approach. They have a business plan. So they have been thinking through what is needed to be able to do this, not just in small scale. They have already teamed up with local banks. They have the financing to do their own operation. They are extremely well prepared, and most importantly, they are also big trust from the farmers' end. So they are a golden star in the sky showing what can be done and how it should be done.
So let's get into really their boardroom and how do they go about it. We'll touch upon very quickly on how Child Fund works to promote smart farming. If this is
a problem with the technology.
Is the video working?
They are having a problem with the technology.
I'll take you through the Child Fund Spowdi partnership in smart farming systems project, which is being implemented in Laikipia, Nyeri, and Migori counties in Kenya. This project arose from a discussion which happened in COP29 in Dubai, which led to the signing of an MOU between Child Fund and Spowdi. And that was way back in 2023. Now we are targeting to reach 10,000 farmers by 2027. It has a power management box, it has the solar panel, and then the water pump unit, and of course the various components for the drip irrigation. Piloting. The piloting phase, we are targeting 1,000 farmers, and these farmers will buy the Spowdi kit. And what we are doing as part of the demonstration as we move to the pilot phase, which we call it establishment phase, is to create a funding model for this technology. The funding model includes private sector entities like the banks, the SACCOs, and village savings and loan schemes, where we are working on a product with these banks whereby farmers can get credit for assets to be able to buy the Spowdi. Spowdi unit can irrigate up to 1 acre. But usually it comes with systems to irrigate 500 square meters. By 18th of November, we'll have all these 50 kits being laid out for demonstration, because we are going to start of the pilot phase or the establishment phase, where a lot of information we are going to gather. In this phase also, we'll expand the various value chains for this technology. And because farmers would have increased their yield by almost threefold, this is what information is telling us from India. So we will also need to talk about marketing, so that we start having aggregation centers where farmers can put their products together and sell. So this particular phase, apart from scaling up the production and distribution of Spowdi, we are also looking at supporting the value chain systems for this. We already have a structure for this project, which we have a steering team. We are looking at people who will support the farmers. Spowdi will provide the technical support. We are doing product development with financial institutions, as I've said, the various funding models. We are looking for social impact investors and donors into this, so that we can reach many more farmers and revolutionize agriculture in Kenya and other parts of Africa. We are looking at farmers getting much more. So everything we are doing is centered around the farmer.
So any very quick reflections of your time there and the model that Child Fund is now adopting for taking smart farming as a business model to thousands of smallholder farmers, and then we start our panel.
Well, they have a scalable model, but they are quite unique because most of the implementing organization has not come that far yet. But they can do that. And the good thing with this example is we are talking about Child Fund, but they have teamed up with other organizations similar to Child Fund to reach even beyond their own reach, so to speak. So I think this is a good example. What we need now, you had some sort of financing coming into the picture. Okay. That is one-time financing that they need. They need cash to scale, one-time investment to scale with more people doing more things more often.
All right. So.
Yeah. I think we stop with Child Fund, perhaps.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Henrik. And we will come back to you after this on the biggest ask from you as an innovator. So thank you. Please take your seat at the audience. And at this point of time, I would like to invite some of our panelists who are here. And before we took a break, we touched upon the pinwheel, right? And in the pinwheel, you did see there were financial organizations, implementing organizations, technology provider. We've been talking a lot about the technology as well as the smallholder farmer who can be an impact generator. How do you get that wheel spinning? And for that, I would like to call on Richard Kolbach on stage. Welcome, Richard. Richard Kolbach is the Global Lead for Sustainable Crop Production Advisory Services at IFC's Manufacturing, Agribusiness and Service Group, focusing on climate-smart crop production systems and human nutrition, as well as in advising investment for clients and scale-ups, as well as developing business models.
Thank you, Rupali. Can I be heard? Can I just see a thumbs? Thank you very much.
Right. So if you would like, you can take a seat as well. If you prefer to stand, that's fine with me also. But I will get started on asking you if there is one missing piece in the wheel that we went through. For, say, IFC, a multilateral organization like IFC, what would it really be? What would it be for you to supercharge a climate-resilient wheel?
Thank you very much. Let me start with a couple of brief comments. First, thank you to the booth here, to Sweden, who are hosting us today for this session. I feel very relaxed being on the stage here with this background. It's a fantastic environment to speak in. Let me just take a step back and introduce IFC a little bit, if I might, Rupali. IFC is a large organization made up of many small teams. With a large impact. We actually invest a huge amount of money in the market, but we do it in several different ways. And so your question is an excellent one, but I don't have a silver bullet, if you will, to answer it. There are several different teams that I'd like to mention here. One is our SME Ventures Fund, which deal with early stage venture capital. Another one is our Financial Institutions Group, which deals with financial institutions. And then the third one is the Manufacturing, Agribusiness and Forestry team, which is the team that I'm part of. So IFC, when you speak about it, it sounds like one big organization. It sounds like a destination you come to, a cashier window, if you will. But it's not a destination. It's actually more of a journey. And you might enter through the door of the venture capital group. You might enter through the door of the Manufacturing, Agribusiness and Forestry, or through the Financial Institutions Group. And when you enter, there will be different things that they're looking for. So let me start with the venture capital team. They deal with smaller scale investments. You might say in the region of 100,000 to a million, maybe even 2 million. And they deal with early stage where the business plan is being developed, fleshed out, and getting to a tipping point. Then you have the financial institutions that we invest in that can disperse money out to individual farmers. We can't do that through our team, through the manufacturing, agribusiness, and forestry team. And finally, that last team I mentioned, we deal with the larger scale investments, millions up to tens of millions, even at times hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, what's the thing that we look for? We look for scale. You mentioned this before. The critical point is scale. Now, for an SME, scale looks very different to it would for a bank or it would for myself. So for an SME venture fund, the scale would be, can we invest a couple of $100,000 with you? And do you have a decent business plan? So the thing they're looking for is the kinds of proofs of concept, the kind of relationships you've shown us here, they're ready to speak to you now. When you go to the FIG group, the Financial Institutions Group, they look for an organization that is able to absorb across a region like Africa or a country like India, $100 million through multiple financial institutions. And when you come to the manufacturing, agribusiness, and forestry team, we look for a single transaction, one thing that we can do with you that will be in the $1 to $2 million in a very risky market where we can go small, or in the tens of millions of dollars in a more evolved and developed market. So your question was, what's the one thing? And I haven't given you a single answer because there's no silver bullet, but really it's reaching the scale to be able to walk through the door to have that first conversation. That's the most important thing.
That's interesting. You speak about scale. There are several, of course, initiatives that we saw on the maps of on the map of Asia, and we saw the continent of Africa as well. And one does see that there are several organizations as implementing partners who have the capacity to absorb funding to supercharge projects, supercharge initiatives, as I may say. So let's just park that here. But at this point of time, I'd also like to call our other panelists, and I'll come back to you on that scale question. Sneha Shinde. Sneha is with the organization called BAIF. Welcome, Sneha. Sneha has traveled all the way from India. But let's get you started on the scale topic. How many million farmers did you all work with, or how many thousand farmers did you all work with?
Yeah, so we are working with almost 4 million farmers, and we are working in almost 16 states of India. So we have a huge reach. And we are also we have also promoted more than almost 200 FPOs through our organizations. So we have a huge reach through our organization in all over India. So we have implementing teams at the ground levels also, and we have certain technology teams also in our organization also. So through this, we can reach to a huge number of farmers. And as all of you know, that India has most of the small and marginal farmers, they are in India. So we can have this platform to reach through this platform to the small and marginal farmers. Yeah.
All right. How would you, as an organization, look to transform smallholder farmers from being just receivers of grants and being at the forefront of climate change, but also many of them moving out from their primary occupation of farming because there's just not enough money to be made. So how do you really change things on the ground?
Okay, so we are working with most of the farmer producer organizations. Okay, so these farmer producer organizations, they are already on the ground, and they are actually generating some of the income. So what we can do is we can go through we can collect all the farmers we can form a group of organizations, and already we have certain water user associations, then we have certain village level committees, and we have institutions that are being built at the ground level itself. So we can reach out to them, we can bring group of farmers together, and then we can try to scale this up. Yeah, so this is the thing that we can go about. Yeah.
So how does a farmer-producer organization typically work in India? For example, for our international audience, what's the can we build an economic model so that the farmer-producer organization acts as a business entity? Is that possible?
See, the existing FPOs that are in India, they are already generating income. So they are supplying input supplies.
Okay.
Then they are having seed production at the ground level itself, and they are generating income from that. So now what is the thing is that they need certain finance so that they can scale this activities that are taken up. So they are having processing units, they are having marketing units, and they are generating income through that. So whatever existing systems are there in India, we can use that to scale up.
Okay.
Because they are already existing, we just need something to push them up and to generate income to the farmers over there. Yeah.
So what's your biggest ask? What I'm hearing as your biggest ask is that there is really financing which is needed to catalyze this whole domino effect. Is that a correct ask, or can you rephrase that? Or I mean, let's rephrase it from the way you want to.
Okay. So what I would like to ask over here is that there are existing institutions, there are existing income that is flowing in India, and there are existing technologies, and all the need is there. Actually, there is a need that the Indian farmers require, and if finance is provided, this can be scaled up. And we do have a proposal also that we can propose to you, and that can be one of the things that can be taken up through this pavilion, yeah, through this event, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sneha. Stay with us, both of you. And I'd also like to call on my colleague and former ambassador of Sweden for sustainability, Jacob Kiefer. Welcome, Jacob.
Thank you so much.
So you've traveled across the world. You've met governments, you've met financing institutions.
Sure.
Typically, we went through the entire pinwheel. How does one really de-risk investments or financing to come into a model such as smart farming so that it becomes a productive asset for financing organizations, for implementing organizations, for technology providers? How does one really de-risk this and make it scale from your vantage point of view?
Well, really good questions, and maybe I should give you a little bit of background. Why does a former diplomat, 25 years, being ambassador, then go to ABB Group, work with a company like Spowdi? Why do I choose that? Because I was ambassador for sustainable business, talking about the SDGs. I was ambassador in Chile, talking about all the innovations that companies do. And I've been the chief of staff to the Minister of Trade, talking about what trade and sustainable business can do to really generate a world where we are better off. And we do that with Swedish technology, and we have it in our DNA. But I also felt that when I left ABB, I had been to a couple of COPs. I also felt there was time maybe for me to do something more operational. So I was contacted by Lars Tunnell, who is actually the former president of IFC, to say, "Hi, Jacob, I have an idea. Why don't you come and join the board of Spowdi?" What is Spowdi? What the hell is that? This is Guy Henrik. He has innovated a solar-driven pump for small-scale farmers. Yeah, but we tried to reach that community before. It's not so easy. No, I know. It's not easy, but that's where we have 500 million people. 500 million farmers. We have 2.1 billion people, 1/3 of food production globally, and they are now all across the globe faced with tremendous climate changes. Water has risen to the second biggest global threat that we see among CEOs of the world. Water has become almost like a weaponized asset, and it will create a lot of havoc. So it was almost impossible for me not to accept that offer. Now, we have spent considerable time understanding how do you reach a population that do not have the means to buy a product that will really transform their lives. And I'm so grateful for the stories I've been told here. I don't have to repeat them. What I try to do is to position Spowdi in the global conversation. Parallel here, we have meeting rooms where they try to negotiate how will we lower CO2 emissions? How will we reduce food? There was a COP in Colombia just right now. The whole nature-based solutions. And here's an innovator saying, you know, if I can only give you 30,000 of these systems, 30,000, that will be the equivalent of fresh water going through Niagara Falls during 6-7 days. It's 60,000 trucks going between Los Angeles and New York. And it's a ripple effect of food. 30,000, that's not even 1% of the farmers in Kenya. So my question to policymakers, which I was one of, is what are you guys waiting for? What more excuses do you need not to invest in these people? You're asking business to do the risk. This man has spent 10 years. Our company has spent $10 million out of their own pocket. We haven't sold one unit on a commercial basis yet. Almost, we have sold a few. But now, we have found this model. We have found the partners. And I know I'm not going to put you on the spot, Richard, but it is time now for us to do this. And the strange thing for me is that we talk about risk as if it were a risk in this business model. What is the risk of us continuing to use the water as we do? What is the risk if we don't feed these 500 million farms with productivity? Where will these people go? They will knock on the door of the border of US, if you will, in Central America. They're knocking on the door of the European Union. And here we sit in the European Union wondering, ooh, why are these people coming? Why can't they? Well, we provide you with these tools. So I'm a little bit emotional about this, but also very rational. It's a rational choice to invest in this. Even if we have a 50% failure in our project, we will still be 200% better off on all the KPIs. And this is a type of, why can't that mindset? And I think it's happening now. It's happening with blended finance. You can see the Swedish government is pushing business to do that, taking more risk. So I'm semi-optimistic, but we're also a small company with limited resources. So I think this has been a super productive COP in the sense that we have been much more business-driven, and now it's just execution. And that's why I'm happy to meet all these new friends that you meet in these places. So I may be not answering your question, but for us it's more about showing the cases. And Richard said something very important. You have to strike awe into the people you talk to. So 50 systems, if I hear the word pilot, I throw myself off the plane. We don't have to have a pilot for every phone that is over the border. It's Earth. It works in India, it works in Kenya. Why do we have to have a pilot in every country? Get real, look at the impact reports, and let's just scale it. So we need to be brave, talk about the hundreds of thousands systems, and ask for the KPIs. So if there's anybody out there that want to join us on this journey, please do so.
And I believe you have a guest with you, and we'll be calling her in just a minute. But Richard, putting the question to you really, from your vantage point, what's the cost of not taking action fast enough? And what is really the cost of adopting a more sort of, adopting the pace that we are at currently? So what's the cost of that kind of inaction?
I think it's an excellent question. I mean, for us, it's visceral. It's something we really feel intensely. There's a lot of pressure on us, and it's self-imposed as much as it is by our shareholders, which are the governments that make up the shareholders of the World Bank Group. The cost is enormous. I think when we look at climate change and we look at the impact it's going to have on smallholder farmers, it's probably the most important focus area that we have as an organization. Within my team, we have two areas we look at now that are top of mind. One is irrigation. And the second one is soil, regenerative agriculture. The cost of not getting this right is going to be, as Jacob mentions, it's going to be immigration. It's going to be devastation to the food systems of the world. And so, I can't overstate how important this is. But I've also said in previous conversations we've had, Rupali, I'm not the farmer. I have been a farmer in the past, and so I can speak from experience. I am not the farmer. And the way that I look at this, and the way that I look at the devastation and the risk, it's not necessarily the way the farmer does. And so, the risk is that we don't spend enough time to understand what the needs of the farmer are and meet them. She may be a farmer in India who can adopt it quickly, but many of the farmers that we're looking at don't either understand the technology, have access to it, or have the finance. And so I guess the risk is that we come too late. I think the other risk that we have is that we have separated and disaggregated pilots going on all over the place. I've worked with Xylem in the past. They're a $29 billion organization, and they were doing pilots. Spowdi doesn't have $29 billion market capital, and they're doing pilots. Kickstart in Kenya, doing pilots. IDE all over the world, doing pilots. I think, I strongly agree with Jacob. We've got to stop the pilots and move to the action. And I think the risk is that we're in the same position in 10 years' time that we are today, but with a lot more hunger, a lot more suffering, and a lot more strife coming out of this. And that's a huge risk. I don't want to end my career in the same position as I started it.
And what you said, I think, will resonate with all the other stakeholders as well. I mean, Sneha, you've been at the ground. You see the risk. She works with 4 million smallholder farmers. If we don't act on time, if there is not enough of a supercharge into making these farmers resilient, we all know the risk, right? At this point of time, I'd also like to invite a lady who's been patiently waiting, so thank you for that, Dr. Lindween Meffo. We met her at this COP, so I'm glad that we made friends with her, and she understands the landscape in Africa, so we were very excited to have you at our platform. What really is the situation on the ground as far as the smallholder farmer goes? We heard it from Child Fund, but what's the biggest ask from you?
First of all, I want to say thank you for having me. And then I was very honored when the ambassador asked me to come and share my stake with this group. I just want to say that I have been on the end of both sides of the river, where I was on the ground at the United Nations, where I was going with the local farmers and educate them on the matter. And if you read the report of the African Union, it says that by 2025, we will not be able to reach our goal because of hunger. This is very sad because we have the land, we have all the resources, we have everything, but still we will not be able to meet our goals. I was also very sad when you showed a number. There is nothing has been signed, no MOU, no nothing like India and stuff that you have shown on a board. It's difficult to integrate the language in Africa. Very difficult because you're going to start, they're going to do one step and two steps backwards. And you come there with a very good strategy. This is when I come and maybe Dr. Abolo comes. The language has to fit their understanding. When we speak about something like smart farming, for them it's like everything fake, which is not true. They think about everything, is it sustainable? Is it better? Is it healthier? Is it going with the culture? Is it all of that coming part? And on the other group of, now I'm representing here at the COP 2 equity farmer firm. And they are willing, like they say Lithuania. If you speak with Spowdi, they are willing to come to Africa and do something. We are willing to invest up to $1 billion into what you are doing. Where is Enric?
Enric is over there, he's taking some coffee.
Yes. So they
Maybe
say,
we can get you on stage as
Eric,
well, Henrik. Come back.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that I saw that you are in business since 2016. I have done my work all night. Even though I was jet lagging, I've done all the work. So I kind of give them the numbers that I'm glad to go to this conference. I want to see what they offer, but what are we offering them as well? But we are not doing in terms of cash. We are doing in terms of financing in equipments. Meaning what? 5 countries out of 54 African countries are using this type of strategy. We have Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, Ethiopia, and I don't know what was the 5th one. What happened to the 49 other countries? This is when I come, Dr. Abolo come, and maybe also Catherine comes, because we are on the ground at this moment doing the work. So we are really happy and proud to be here at this moment and share that we can be on board with you if we go hand to hand. So yes, Henrik. So this is very good. So my people in America are saying that they are willing to do something with you when you are ready. Does that work?
Well, thank you. We're glad to hear that. And I think platforms like these where different stakeholders interact is important to generate, of course, more interest to also move further instead of only talking about the challenges. Now, we'll kind of wrap it there, but I'll leave you all with one question. What would be you as an innovator, your biggest ask and your biggest give? If you can share that in a short answer, about a minute.
In 1 minute?
Yes.
I need growth capital because doing business in a market means that you must be present in the market. Setting up an entity, bringing in technology over the border is costly, but it's necessary. So from my point of view, producing locally is of extreme importance, but we need to do investment to come to that position. So we are actually trying to finance that scale up for Spowdi.
And your give?
The gift is give. What we will give in return is what we have been investing on our own pocket for more than like 1 decade. And that is great technology and the mindset that we think is a little bit more positive mindset as we go. And that is a gift and that is a promise because we are not operating this company as a project. It's an initiative, and I hope we will come back here next year and tell what we have achieved so far.
Thanks, Henrik. So ask capital so that in local regions where there are partners, we can scale technology faster, cheaper. It also create employment opportunities. The give is the $10 million that you've already put in, along with your hard work and technology, innovating the technology as well, taking it to other regions.
A return on investment for everyone that comes in.
So a return on investment, an ROI for everyone who comes in.
Yeah.
Ask and give from IFC and from you, Richard. IFC is big, I know, but...
Yeah. You know, I think our ask is bring us your data and work with us. We'd like to be involved. We'd like to be part of the journey with you. We've been discussing this for a while, but I think it's time now to sit down and go through that and come up with a plan. You know, our give is we bring blended finance, and I've heard that mentioned before. I think what we intend to do, or what we hope to do anyway, when the conditions are right, is to bring that in to play for you. Bring in either, if it requires it, the SME ventures in the early stage, or if we can get to the point where we can invest directly, the blended finance. That's what we're hoping to do, is to bring you a combination of the experience that we have, the finance we have, and the access to market and the partners that we have.
Thank you.
So for everyone, come back next year and we will tell what has been achieved.
And Sneha, your biggest ask and your biggest give from BAIF.
Yeah, so with the experience of almost 57 years of working on the ground And with a reach of almost 16 states in India with 4 million families, we would like to implement such projects which can benefit the small and marginal farmers with the support of this team. Yeah. And the GIMP will be, we have experienced team, we have good implementation on the ground. So we are good at that, and we would give that to the best possible from our end. Yeah.
Proven results.
Yeah.
So I might have come out a little bit, sounded negative, but I also would like to say that if you put on my other hat as a diplomat, of course, you don't give away money to some startup from Uppsala, Stockholm. And I think it's been good that these requirements been put on us. And we have learned a lot thanks to the interventions we had and interaction we have with IFC, World Bank, SEED, and all of those. But it also comes to a point, I think, when we have done as much as we can. We have filled all the gaps now. We have the partners. And I think maybe we should have taken more time historically to really look for the partner and the execution part of it. But that's a part of the journey that we have learned. But now I think we're there. So it is a very cool time, also promising time, but also frustrating time. So what I would like to challenge everybody to say, don't try to put all our projects into a mold. There has to be space for an entrepreneur, for innovation, for individualism in a global scheme. Even if you're a government, I know it's our taxpayers' money, but if you don't take a little bit of risk, the end game is all of those SDGs goals that we will fail to have. And just in the case of Africa, what will the next 1 billion people do that is added to this population 2050?
All right, let's ask the biggest ask and give from you, Lidwin.
I will speak on in terms of actions. Actions this year. I think we would like to touch the 49 other countries, African countries, and using what you already have putting in place, and give is our expertise. And we have so many of them here that would like to hear this. Maybe after this, there is another meeting that speak about the same thing. If you would like to join the meeting, Dr. Abolo is here, or maybe you to share more about this. So we expand already what you are doing. Because yesterday we have farmers who are already, Dr. Abolo, do you mind coming, please?
I think we are out of time, unfortunately. So
No?
over time.
Okay, you just come and just take my 2 minutes. So for 1 minute, so yes.
30 seconds. My name is Paul Abolo. I'm the chairman of Alliance for Food Security Action in Africa. We have developed a model as implementers where we need to work with local development agencies that are funded for intervention projects. And this is the greatest intervention. So through them, we'll be able to raise funds, and then in addition to the budget that they have to make this at scale. So that's exactly what we are looking at. I know we don't have so much time. We have an event tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. I will be very glad to have you there, and we can look at this. It's promising a whole lot. We've developed the model, and I'm telling you, with that model, we can go in deep into Africa and get this done. This is needed, and we are on the right track. I must assure you, on the right track, you've made the right investment. Thank you.
Well, so thank you all for joining us on this panel, but we have about a few minutes for any quick questions or interventions that you all might have. Yes, please go ahead. Could you start with your name and organization and then ask your question, please? Can we pass the mic around there? Perhaps we can take it from here.
Thank you so much for a productive session, a well-established panel. My name is Akram Abdurrahman. I work for a humanitarian organization called Islamic Relief Sweden. We are the biggest recipient of SIDA humanitarian funding for the past few years. And my question is, first and foremost, I would like to congratulate this panel and obviously Spowdi for your successful achievements and efforts. But I wanted to ask perhaps Henrik, or someone else in the panel, maybe Jacob, to clarify one thing. You mentioned subsidies, and the over-reliance of subsidies can be a threshold for failure. But me, as an environmental advisor when it comes to humanitarian aid and climate and environment, why would we sort of, or maybe I have misunderstood you, but why do we rule out subsidies completely? Because isn't it a goal to have a mixed and blended finance opportunities and an ability for farmers to, let's say, diversify their income? So unless, the subsidies themselves kind of prevent a farmer to get funding from, let's say, private sector. So if are subsidies still inefficient, if you can still blend it with, let's say, investments from Spowdi and so forth? So if you could just clarify the issue of subsidies.
Thanks, and that's a very interesting question. Henrik, would you like to take the first shot?
I can take it first on that one. Subsidies, as it has been routed, has not, in my world, been routed in the means of generating profitable business models. When we talked with SIDA, I was there and met with SIDA in the headquarters in Stockholm. We said, perhaps we should route this tax money with the sense of having, KPIs in front of us. If we give something to anyone, they should sign a contract to be part of a value chain. Nothing should be routed anywhere if the receiving partner is not capable to do their part, take on the responsibility to actually deliver in a commercial model. That's my point. So subsidies in the meaning for many people is free money. The word subsidy. That's why we try to change that to become a kickstart to make a machine spin. And while spinning, earn back what has been injected initially, and then there is no need for more subsidies or kickstarts coming in. So it's a way of looking into the money that should be injected.
Any other questions?
I think the word subsidy leads wrong, and it's not good to have that business model. But there are a few things that Henrik points to. If you are a farmer, what is your collateral if you want to go and buy something? In Sweden, you're a farmer, you go to the equivalent of Walmart and you buy your tractor and off you go. You get a credit, you can do that. That's not the case for these 200 million people. They can get a loan in the bank for 35% interest rate. So I think what we're trying to say is that money, the kickstart in itself, should also be a basis to give them fair and decent loans. Compete on commercial terms, because they're not even able to enter a normal market where your supply and demand meets, because their threshold is too high. And then we don't call it, a subsidy. It's rather give them a fair chance. So in that sense, I think subsidies has a point, but it leads in the wrong direction in terms of our business model, which is actually creating an entrepreneur, not only a farmer living off their land.
All right, I think we'll have to wrap it up here. We have got a sign that we just have about a minute left, but thank you everyone who's joined in with your questions, and of course with our panelists as well. Richard Kolbach, a big hand for him, please, for his engagement. Sneha Shinde from BEF, a big hand for her. Thank you. My friend and colleague, Jacob Kiefer, as well as Livell, thank you so much for joining us the last minute as well and giving your interventions. So with that, we close the session for today, but do get in touch with us and we'd love to engage with you at COP and beyond. Thank you. Thanks a lot.